Hey guys, my name's Crystal Kenny, and I'm in love with creating. All things artistic and imagination involved. I'm an American girl who chased her creative dreams all the way to Paris, France, making a living using photography. This podcast takes you inside the stories of all the artsy folks I've met along the way and gives you that extra push to discover your creative gifts. The desire to create is deeply inside each and every one of us, and I give you the tools and inspiration to find a new way of living a more creative life. This is La Vie Creative, the podcast.
Today on the show, I interview Whitney Marin. She's an American in Paris just like me, and we talk about her new show called Current. It's all about comparing ideas and cultures through France, America, and other countries on topics such as relationships, capitalism, and much more. Enjoy the show. So welcome to the show, Whitney. You were an au pair just like me in your final beginnings of Paris. It's so nice to reconnect with you.
Yes, it's crazy. I feel like that was a lifetime ago, but yes, hello again.
It feels like a lifetime ago for sure. And we were just saying we don't even think that agency's around anymore. We both worked with the same agency to find families here, and it's crazy. The pandemic has changed so much.
No, completely. I feel like either they transform the business or maybe it just kind of shut down altogether. But yeah, I definitely agree. A lifetime ago.
Yeah. But at least it was an outlet for both of us to get here and stay here, right? Because that's basically
definitely. My au pair experience was mostly like really positive. I feel like it was kind of like a reverse gap year, honestly.
Yeah, exactly. It was just such a great way to like get your bearings here and figure out how to be here and get a visa and all that. So most people go back, but I've met a couple. Do you remember there's another woman, she now runs the Shakespeare group in Paris. She's a director.
Oh, Taylor, I think.
Taylor, yes. She was from the agency too.
Yes. I remember her because I think we might have had class at the same school, and I feel like I would always see her.
Yeah, I remember when I saw her in the agency. She's like, I need to find a way to stay here. How did you do it? And I was like, oh, I hope she can do it. And now she like runs the Shakespeare theater group in Paris. Like, super exciting. But let's talk about you. So first, I want to start with your Paris story. Obviously, you came here as an au pair, but what were your plans? Were you planning to try to stay, or what exactly happened?
Yeah, so I remember talking to my professor my senior year in college. And so I studied at Syracuse University. I had a kind of different dual major kind of trajectory. So it was policy studies and then television, radio, film. So I kind of always knew that I wanted to do something in the media space, but I was also very interested in kind of like social affairs and kind of just like the world and things that were happening.
Yeah.
So I just remember talking to my professor and I was like, yeah, like after college, I think I just want to move to Paris.
It's very casual. Like, yeah, I'm just going to go for it.
Yeah. And he was like, oh, like, what do you mean? Like, what are you going to do? Like, don't you need a job? Like all these things. And I was just like, yeah, like, that's like kind of my goal. So I'm just going to do that. But then kind of like real life hit me. And I wasn't able to move to Paris until 2 years later. But yeah, honestly, I had always kind of known that I wanted to kind of figure out this city, living and working here. So being an au pair was really just a great kind of foot in the door to understanding like what my options were.
And why did you decide Paris? Like, had you just seen pictures or had you visited before?
Yeah, so I had studied abroad in Paris while I was an undergrad.
Yeah.
Just one summer, I think 6 weeks was the program. And it was during the summer. And I don't know if this was a big shock to you, but when I first came to Paris and I realized that in summer the sun sets at like 10 p.m. Like, oh my God, like this is like so beautiful and perfect. And like the days felt so long.
Yeah.
So that was like a big like attraction to me, Paris.
A lot more daylight.
Well, yeah, just like I don't know, I had never been to Europe and I was just really excited by this idea of Paris in the summertime. It was just really magical to me.
And I love how like everyone stays out super late and they dance along the sun and all the picnicking, and it's just these amazing sunsets along the river. I mean, yeah, it is quite romantic.
Honestly, like people really know how to enjoy life. It's great.
Yeah. It was a big eye opener for me too. All these people just sitting around in cafes all day. I'm like, wow, don't you have jobs? Like, what are you doing? Is that American mentality where it's like run.
Yeah, definitely.
think they've taught us to slow down here a little bit. And then you were working previously, well, you were working with ARTE France, correct?
Yeah, so actually I still work at ARTE. I was an alternante, so I basically did my master's program where I was able to work and go to school at the same time. And after this alternante period, I was hired, and then I moved to another position on the same team, and that's where I still am now in the international distribution.
And explain to people a little bit about ARTE France. It's a really cool communication.
Yeah, so it's a French-German kind of co-production. So it's a television station that has 3 different branches, kind of like the French, the German, and then like the European branch. And they produce a lot of great documentary content. I kind of call it like the PBS of Europe.
Yeah, me too.
I might not know. But yeah, it's a really great company, a really great channel that produces a lot of quality content.
And what's it like working for a TV channel? Like, do you get to meet anything very interesting, or how does it work?
Yeah, so I guess it's a little bit different because I work for the distribution department, which is actually like a subsidiary of like the main television channel.
Yeah.
So my work is essentially sales. So selling the rights to the programs that we produce and acquire internationally.
I always found that was interesting because you like how TV works is like you make something and then channels have to buy it, right?
So basically, there are producers that create the content, and then ARTE is usually coming on as like a co-producer. So they would then like provide some of the funding, and then the show that's produced is broadcast on their channel.
Yeah, I never knew that's how it worked. I just thought all channels just like make their own stuff and that's that. But you can also buy other people's stuff.
Yeah, definitely. There's definitely some internal productions, and then we have things that are acquired as well.
And I want to talk about your latest project, producing a bilingual web series featuring millennials in Paris. So it's called Currents. Talk a little bit about that. What is that about?
Yes, so Current is a bilingual web series and podcast. And the idea was really just to bring English-speaking and French-speaking people together here in Paris to talk about a number of different subjects that I kind of found interesting, which first season, it's really capitalism, relationships, the representation of youth in the media, and work culture.
Oh man, those are all fascinating topics because it's like so different between cultures. Like, let's talk about some of those. Like, what were some of the things you discovered through bringing French and American or just English speaking people together to talk about these things?
Yeah, well, first of all, casting was kind of like one of my favorite parts of working on this project. So finding people who would like be able, so the concept is really having, so there are 8 episodes total and 4 subjects. So there's kind of like a French version and then an English version of the same subject.
Interesting.
So I would have to find people that were English speaking that spoke French and people that were French speaking that spoke English so that they'd be able to participate in either version, just like being able to speak the other language.
Yeah.
Kind of fun to meet all of these different people and figure out, like who kind of would get along with who or maybe not get along and like have this kind of conversation. So I wasn't like curating exactly, but I was really kind of putting people together that I thought would have some really interesting conversations.
So you would just bring these 2 people together and ask them about the topic and then just let them go back and forth in their native languages?
Yeah, no, not exactly. So basically I was working with my assistant and she was able to kind of tap into her network and I was tapping into mine. So there are a lot of like friends and people that we kind of found on Facebook groups and things.
Yeah.
Eventually, each episode was either 2 to 4 people and it was kind of like a panel discussion almost. So I remember for one of the episodes, the capitalism episode in English, there's a French person, a Turkish person, and an American, and they all kind of, represent their own cultures and like different points of view. And then they would all be speaking in the same language, like for that episode.
Oh, smart. And so how did they feel about capitalism? Like, what was some major differences?
Oh, I think it's funny because when I was asking people to talk about capitalism, a lot of people didn't feel that they were necessarily like the best person to speak on the subject.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting because I personally think we all have a stake in capitalism and the way that our societies are run. I don't think you need to be an expert to really have an opinion about it.
Yeah.
So I think some people were a little bit more tentative in terms of like how they approached it or more like academic, in terms of like, this is what capitalism is, this is how I see it in my society. And do I think that things should be different? Like, I like how the conversation kind of got deeper and deeper the further into it we get.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see how people like feel about that, because obviously like we live in France, so like socialism, and just me coming from like a capitalism country, like I feel like I've brought those foundations with me to France to start a company and do well. And capitalism kind of inspired that, but also I try to like embrace socialism and like try to slow down, and like the healthcare is amazing here, but it's just, I would be really curious to see what people have to say about that.
Yeah, I think I remember one point that I kind of enjoyed like listening to people talk about was just the difference in, I guess, how you see your own society. Like in France, for me, obviously socialism is a huge part of, how things are organized, but there's also an element of capitalism. Like the way that things are structured might be influenced by other countries. And I feel like maybe in France there is a little bit of a fear of like becoming a little too Americanized with certain things.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if the average French person sees the elements of capitalism in the society, or if they still consider themselves to be like more of a socialist country. I guess it's like your self-identity almost, or like how you see your own country.
Yeah, perception is reality, right? And how do you see the capitalism elements in France? Like, what pieces for you are capitalism?
Oh, that's a good question. How do I see capitalism in France? I guess for me, it's just about maybe like the ambitions that people might have. I think in America, there's kind of a trajectory that life has to take in terms of like, you're at a job for a certain number of time and you expect to be kind of promoted or like be in this position. And I think we're always in this positioning of like making more money, and like there's kind of like a track to life.
Mm-hmm.
In France, as I feel like that's not as much of a like pressure, societal pressure. It might be like, individuals might have that attitude or ambition. Capitalism is more in the sense of like, how can I guess make the most of my own resources, maybe with or without depending on
the system.
Or like the system. And I think a lot of people may have to like figure that out for themselves. Like, what can they do beyond the structure of like the society that exists already, where like they do have a lot of support, or they do have a lot of like aid and things like that from the government.
And you see that happening in France more so, like people are starting companies and things like that?
Oh yeah, I feel like definitely people in France are super like creative in the sense of like entrepreneurship, and I feel like there are tons of opportunities, maybe more so now than when I first arrived, to kind of like get into like different types of ventures and things.
Yeah, there's a lot of like French, like they started what's that ride sharing one? I always forget the name of it. BlaBlaCar.
Oh yeah, BlaBlaCar is so helpful.
Yeah, very popular, as well as another one that they started. Oh, they do a lot of like engineering. They're all starting like beer places, and it's super interesting to see how they're evolving to become more entrepreneur. It's very surprising, because even 10 years ago, I got here in 2012, and I've just seen so many companies forming in that short time.
Yeah, definitely, and companies that are also like getting investors and like huge funding and being supported at like high levels. So I think that's really great.
Yeah, I think that Macron is really pushing to be like more entrepreneurial and more like business friendly for other companies and things like that. It's interesting to see how it's changed.
For sure.
And how about relationships? Like, what did you discover through your research? How do people feel about relationships in different countries?
Yeah, that was actually one of my favorite episodes in both French and in English, actually, because I think there's always the question of, if you're an American living in France, like a lot of your friends or family might ask you like, oh, like what's the biggest difference between like dating in France or like dating in America? And I think this episode kind of showed me that no matter where you are, I think everyone kind of has the same like thoughts and like problems when it comes to, just like dating and relationships. Like it's a very universal experience almost.
Yeah. What are some of the parallels?
For me, I thought that it was very interesting to see how being an expat or an immigrant can just like really complicate things overall. So no
Yeah.
matter where you're living, if you're someone that's like an outsider, there's a lot of kind of like red tape that might get in the way of like a relationship that, you know, you might make decisions that you might not have made in like a different scenario, like
Mhm.
not getting married per se, but like, you know, being in a relationship. Uh, yeah, just with like certain ideas or certain kind of constraints that might not exist if you were just like back home, you know?
Like visas or languages barriers or
Yeah, I mean, I feel like some people might stay in relationships for convenience more than uh, other
love.
factors, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it does become complicated. I remember when I first moved here, I was like, I will literally just pay someone to marry me. I just want to get my visa. I was like, please. And then, like, for so long, my visa was so difficult to get, and all these bad things happened. And then I met my husband once. I already got all my visa stuff situated. So I
Yeah,
think it was kind of the universe being like, you can do this on your own.
yeah. No, and I'm not saying that you know a large amount of people do that, but I feel like as you're dating and thinking about things, it starts, or I guess maybe the longer you're here, it starts to become like a question of like, am I going to leave the country? Am I going to stay for this person? Am I going to invest in this person? And like with all the difficulties that might, you know, arise from just being an expat and like having to live in this in yeah, a different environment. So
Yeah, because dating is hard enough, and then you add like a foreign language, a foreign culture, and then visa issues. It's like, oh, this is even more complicated.
and another kind of like take on the episode was that it was kind of about like modern relationships. So
Hmm.
my question was kind of also asking people if there are a lot of generational differences between, you know, like how their parents had to go through relationships or experience relationships as opposed to the millennial generation. So yeah, it's interesting to see these intergenerational changes as well.
And what were some of the answers to those?
Well, I one person had been saying that, you know, I guess in the past women had to kind of rely on a man for support in certain ways, or I guess society kind of imposed certain structures that might make a woman more dependent on a man for certain resources. And
Yeah.
now, women might be more independent to just kind of, you know, make their own choices and not even have to yeah, I guess think about certain elements in terms of like courting or like dating and relationships. So
Yeah,
maybe
because
my parents might have stayed in a relationship for a long time because it was kind of like what was expected or, you
yeah,
know,
you're free now because you can actually have a job besides like being a secretary.
beyond even just like the job, but just like, you know, once you kind of like set up your life in your 20s back in the day and like that was
Yeah.
like, you know, that is what it is and maybe people saw less flexibility and opportunity in the past to like be a little bit more adventurous or try different things.
Hmm. And was that true across the American and French, like people you spoke to, that they feel more freedom now than their past generation?
I don't know if that was true across the board. I'm not sure the French conversation really got into those intergenerational differences as much in terms of what I just spoke about. But I think
Uh-huh.
their point was raised was more so like expectations that like families might have or their kids now as opposed to before. So like
Yeah.
someone was saying that yeah, like now like my parents don't like put pressure on me to like be in a relationship, but like maybe at a certain age they'll start to like, you know, ask around to see like what's going on with my life or something.
Yeah, where before it started like much younger, basically, if you wanted to sleep together, you had to get married.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like I mean I kind of say this to myself, but I feel like I'm someone that has a lot of like freedom. Like I don't my family doesn't put any kind of pressure on me to like live my life in a certain way or like, you know, fulfill certain
Check off the
expectations.
boxes.
Yeah, and I feel like as an immigrant, that's something that like maybe you would have a little bit more of in your life, like certain expectations from your family, or like maybe like you would feel like you owe your family something. Um, and yeah, I feel like very like free in my decision making and like the way that I live my life, and I'm like super grateful for that.
Yeah, it's nice to have that feeling because a lot of times families aren't supportive of that stuff. What is the difference for you between an immigrant and an expatriate?
Oh, that's another good question. I guess technically I would consider myself an expat at this point. I've been living in France for the past almost 5 years now. Um, and for me, I feel like socially, if you're talking about immigrants versus expats, I guess there's more of a positive connotation for expats in the sense that maybe they're bringing wealth to the country that they're immigrating to.
Hmm.
Um, and maybe immigrant might have like more of a negative connotation, which I don't know if I support that, or like I'm not sure how I feel about what I've seen in terms of that definition. But
Yeah.
I would consider myself an expat just because that's how I describe myself. But yeah, I mean, sometimes that's true. Sometimes when I'm having like a bad day, I'm like, oh, this immigrant life.
Yeah, it comes up a lot. I met another woman who was like, she didn't like that we call ourselves expats because expat is like a higher standard, like a higher social class, and immigrants are basically people who are like nomadic, who are just looking for work, or had to leave like a bad situation in their country.
Yeah.
Um, so it's interesting because, like you said, there's more negativity around the word immigrant, and then expat is more like glamorous in some ways.
I mean, I guess that's still, I feel like that still could be true. For me, I guess, yeah, I guess if you have like a college education, which like for me, I feel like is now a little bit like maybe in the past, college education was like more of a bigger deal than it is now. I'm not quite sure, but
Yeah,
that like makes you more qualified to be considered an expat as opposed to an immigrant. Um,
yeah, higher education.
yeah, but I don't. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how I feel about all that.
Yeah, yeah, it's come up in a couple conversations, and it is interesting. How do you define creativity?
Ooh, for me, creativity is really just expression, like human expression, finding a way to kind of like transform what you're experiencing or feeling into some kind of outlet, whether that's like the written outlet or video or song, anything.
I like that. That's a good definition. And why do you think creative people are attracted to France? I mean, we've had all these artists coming here for centuries, and we still do today. So why do you think they come here?
Oh, that's a good question. Actually, yeah, my first experience in Paris was actually through my undergrad experience. It was called Paris Noir. So I was exploring like the negritude movement, all of these artists, like African American writers in particular, that moved to Paris during a certain period of time in history, and kind of like how they use the city to kind of like not redefine themselves, but yeah, it just became this like intellectual hub, and they were able to really be influenced by like everything that was happening in the city at the time. And I'm thinking about now, like, what is our like, who are the people that are coming to Paris in this like kind of wave, and like what might that represent? And I think now it's like we're in this like influencer culture age. Um, so I feel like going to a new place is like really exciting, and I think a lot of people come to Paris just because it's like this international city and there's
Yeah,
this opportunity. And I think there's still this relationship between like France and the U.S. where like Paris is seen as like a very like chic place or like high cultured place. And I know people say that if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere about New York, but I'm
yeah.
like feeling like that about Paris almost.
Oh gosh, yes, I completely agree. I feel like it's the hardest place in the world to live.
Goodness, I mean, I feel like there are definitely some barriers to entry. Like, it's not like anyone can kind of, make it here for several years. Like, maybe you can, like, have a short experience in Paris. I think that's feasible for a lot of people.
Yeah,
Years and years, creating a life for yourself here, I think it's definitely a challenge.
yeah. I think that for me, that's why I think creatives are attracted to here because creativity is like all about problem solving, and
Hmm.
there's a lot of obstacles to jump over here. But like it's fun to find solutions. I mean, we all do that daily. So anyone that says they're not a creative, they're lying because we
It's
all have.
2 o'clock.
Oh, no, I'm so sorry. That was my computer.
Oh, it's okay. I can have that cut out. I'll just
Okay.
pause it for a minute so you can cut that. Okay. Yeah. So, what idea would you give to people who feel like they're not creative at all? Like, how would you help them? What would you say to them? They don't really know what they're good at.
Oh, for me, I feel like everyone kind of has a creative idea in the back of their mind. Whether or not they feel like they're capable of doing it. I think it exists. And I think we kind of put a lot of self-doubt, or like we limit ourselves to the extent where like maybe we don't dare to do the things that like, we know we might really want to do.
Yeah.
So I think the solution to that might just be to take a baby step, like really think about, what it is you might want to share with the world, or as you said, like a problem that you feel like you could solve, and just take a first step, whether that's like doing some research or like trying to meet up with someone to like learn more about something. I think creativity is definitely within everyone's grasp. So
yeah, it's all about finding inspiration. I like what you said. It's just like exchanging that energy, exchanging ideas.
Yeah, for sure.
A great place to start. And what are you most excited about for your future work?
Yeah, so I would love to create a season 2 of Current. I think the first set of conversations were like super insightful for me. I feel like I learned a ton because this isn't something that I had done previously.
Yeah.
And I learned a ton about just like production, working with people, maybe like the format of the content that I might want to adjust going forward. So it was a super fun experience, but also a very like informative experience for me. And I'd want to, just keep kind of curating these conversations and sharing stories.
I think that's a great idea. People love stories. I think that's why they listen to this show. They want to hear the Paris stories. Your listeners can tell us about that. And where can people check out your show and keep up with you?
Yes, so you can follow Current on Instagram at Current the Series. And of course, the series is available on YouTube. That's where all of the videos are. And if you like podcasts, you can also listen to, I guess, the longer version of the web series conversations anywhere that podcasts can be found.
Very cool. And it's called Current.
Current, yes.
Nice. We'll share that in the show notes. And I'm excited for the second season. I need to listen to the first season, but I want to hear where this goes because there are some interesting topics, and I'm curious how much we are in common or how much we are different on how we think about these things.
Yeah, definitely. I think that was a huge interest point for me. It's just kind of comparing and contrasting and like seeing where my mind is with all of this as well. Like after like sitting there, like listening to all these conversations, I think my point of view changed a little bit too.
And do you find that most people shared common points of view?
I feel like at the bottom of it, yes. I feel like no one was like completely in opposite ends of the spectrum, but they were more sharing kind of like culturally, like what maybe like the standards are where they're from, or like the point of view like from their culture. Yeah, so I feel like kind of a lot in common, but sometimes yes, but not in the same like format or like not in the same context.
Nice. Well, check it out, guys. Listen to watch Current. And thanks so much for coming on, Whitney.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Crystal. This was great.
Thanks so much for tuning in to La Vie Creative. You can find more information on MissParisPhoto.com. And if you enjoyed this show, please feel free to share and spread the word for all my creative guests. We have the power to help them to keep doing what they love. See you next time.